I've tried a few different ways, and in this video, I want to talk about how I carry a camera on my bike. Over the last few years of biking places, I focused more and more on photography. For example, in my most recent video from Slovenia, I used footage from 4 different cameras. I used an action cam for most of the riding footage, occasionally adding some from my phone when I needed to. I also used a mirrorless camera to get shots like these when I needed different focal lengths and had the time to set up a nice shot. Lastly, I had a drone with me to get these amazing bird's eye view shots of landscapes and cityscapes. In this video, I'll talk about my experience traveling with the camera on my bike and share what carrying setup I've settled on. Definitely leave a note in the comments if you have a better system, as I feel like this is a perpetual work in progress. Back when I first started bike touring, I mostly used a cell phone for photos and video. I either had it in my pocket or mounted to my bars for navigation and easy access. Carrying a mobile phone on the bike is pretty straightforward, so I won't go into detail here. As I started making more videos though, I felt like I needed a dedicated camera for rides, so I started riding with an action cam. I've used a few different GoPros over the years, but I didn't like mounting them to my handlebars because I felt the footage came out too shaky, even with the stabilization software in these things. My preferred method was to carry them on a monopod / selfie stick kind of thing like this. The stick is expandable, which allows me to film myself at a distance. I then keep the camera and stick in one of these handlebar water bottle bags that I find indispensable on all my bikes. I don't try to record the entire ride, just moments I find interesting, which usually gives me enough footage to work with. The drone is the latest piece of gear I've added to my arsenal, and I've only done a few trips with it so far. I keep the drone and controller in these nicely padded and protective cases I found online. Packing them separately makes it a little easier to fit them in different size bags. I don't need quick access to the drone, so I pack it somewhere secure until I stop somewhere and have a chance to use it. I took the drone with me to Puerto Rico last year and had to pack it into smaller bike packing bags that I brought from home to put on a rental bike. Here are some of the shots I got from that trip. There were some amazing views of seascapes and nature. More recently, I brought it with me to Slovenia and packed the drone bags into my usual panniers, which are super spacious and made them super simple to carry. I got some terrific footage of the mountains in Slovenia, along with the Mediterranean coast in Piran. I used a lot of these clips in my video, which I'll link below. Lastly, I've been carrying a mirrorless interchangeable lens camera on my trips. The first one I ever bought to bring on my travels was this Canon M6. It's one of the tiniest cameras I've ever seen that still had a crop sensor. It's so small there's not even a viewfinder, though one is available to buy and attaches to the hot shoe. The first trip I took it on was my ride through Albania a few years back. I only brought one lens with me, which was this 22mm f2 pancake. It made the whole package tiny and it could easily fit in a pocket or most places on the bike. For this trip, I just carried it wrapped in this neoprene sleeve inside my pannier bag. Here are some shots I took from this trip. This is still probably my best shot of the Milky Way I've ever taken. The setup was okay, but I found it kind of inconvenient to have to stop, get off the bike, and reach for the camera whenever I wanted to take a photo. I wanted to have the camera close at hand for spontaneous shots without much effort, and also wanted to have a zoom lens handy to have a little bit more reach. I found a good setup that fit the bill using a top tube bag. I mounted this small bag on my Specialized crux and found it fit the camera really well. I was able to carry the M6 with a 55 to 200mm zoom lens. The camera fit snugly inside the bag and did not bounce around much. The bag also has thick padding on the bottom, so the camera is less likely to damage the frame from rubbing and jostling around on it. I took the setup on a trip around New England and took some of these photos along the way. The zoom lens even helped capture a few wildlife shots. I used this setup on a number of trips and found it convenient to have the camera ready whenever I need it. There was even a way to carry the kit lens and the zoom lens inside the top tube bag. I rode around with this setup for a little while, but most recently I upgraded from the M6 to a Canon R7. The R7 has more native lens options, better autofocus, and better battery life. The one problem though is it's much bigger. There was no way I would be able to fit it in the top tube bag, but I did find a nice way to carry it on my main touring bike though. I have these wacky DIY alt bars with lots of room out front, so I added one of these Ortlieb front bags. For extra protection, I still pack the camera into a padded carry bag, which I can use when I'm off the bike as well. I used this setup in Slovenia and was super happy to have the nicer camera with easy access. I've read some accounts of cameras being damaged if they're carried on the bike, and many photographers prefer to carry the camera on their body instead. This is especially a concern for cameras like the R7 that have in-body image stabilization, which involves many small moving parts. I haven't had any issues so far. I'm hoping having the camera sort of suspended and not being able to bounce against anything hard, along with the carrying case, will protect it enough, and it won't be much worse than what a camera would typically endure, like sitting in the passenger seat of a car, for example, or bouncing on the hip of someone walking around. Let me know in the comments what you do with your camera and if you've ever ran into problems with it on the bike. And here's a quick fun fact for you camera nerds out there. The shutter sound I've been using in this video and some others isn't some stock audio. I actually recorded the shutter from a Canon 5D Mark III, which has one of the more satisfying shutter sounds of the cameras I played with. Anyway, happy riding and photographing out there, and thanks as always for watching.